So today's presenter is Roy Shuffle. Roy has been with the association for quite a long time and was actually our first certified air barrier specialist. So Roy is actually a past chair, has been on our board, on our executive, so very well acquainted with the association and so forth, and really helped drive this new certification program because we had a gap. We didn't really have a certification program for professionals. It was mostly focused on auditors and installers and so forth. So without further ado, Roy, I'm going to pass the presentation over to you, and then we can get going.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, it should be coming over to you right now.
Got it.
And I can see it, so hey, so far so good.
Well, I love it when everything works. And thank you again, Ryan, for that kind introduction. Good day, everyone. I hope to be able to bring you a lot of information regarding the CABS program today, either through this presentation or your subsequent questions. Allow me to stay at the start off of this. This CABS is available to everyone, whether you're an architect, consultant, specifier, contractor, marketing person, salesperson, QAP person, whatever you are, you can take this exam and achieve your CABS. As Ryan said, it really is a professional certification meant for our industry. So no matter what discipline you happen to be involved in the air barrier industry, this is the certification for you to get. We've already covered off who I am with that very nicely airbrushed photo.
Hey Roy, can just one here. Can you click on display settings just to help make the presentation a little bit bigger?
Sure.
Yeah.
How's that?
There we go. That's
I had it in read. My bad. And not everything's perfect. We just proved that. So with everything going on in our industry, please understand that air barriers truly are only 20 years old here in the United States. It started out with the state of Massachusetts Energy Code in 2001, which was put together predominantly with our current executive director, Laverne Dalglish. So this technology is new, and no matter how many learning units we, the speakers group at ABAA, give, we know very, very well that there are thousands of architects that still need help, still need direction, knowledge, and guidance. And that's what this CABS program is. So back in 2001, when the industry started, there were no certification programs. There was certainly no trade group that would be putting this on. So the ABAA started out with the certification of installers and accreditation of the contractors as a training mode to provide the workforce to apply air barriers properly. Roughly in 2005, 2006, the ABAA came out with evaluated materials and assemblies. These were predicated on ASTM tests, ASTM E2178 for materials, ASTM E is in Edward 2357 for assemblies. And these are listed on the ABAA website. We were able to now have the trades certified and approved to install. We now have a full listing of ABAA evaluated materials and assemblies. And this is something that had never happened in the construction industry prior to the advent of the ABAA, where both the contractors and materials received greater scrutiny. So as our business evolved, we now have the CABS program, the Certified Air Barrier Specialist. There are roughly 43 manufacturers of air barriers right now, hundreds of consultants, and thousands of contractors involved in this business. There needs to be a way to distinguish ourselves from other folks and possibly your competition by becoming a certified air barrier specialist. This designation is meant to demonstrate your total knowledge of air barrier technology, top to bottom, side to side. And literally this program is now 1 year old. It was introduced in September of 2020. So we currently have roughly 12, 14 people who have passed the examination. We have about 70 people in line to take the exam. So you can see this is a growing attribute to our business. And with that, yeah, some of your friends, some of your competitors, but folks want to demonstrate their knowledge. So with that, what we have going on throughout all this, you become the trusted air barrier advisor. Once you achieve CABS status, you are the architect, consultant, specifier, and GC's person to go to, the go-to person, the trusted air barrier advisor. And like anything else, it's a three-legged stool. We do have the manufacturers deeply involved in our business. We do with their evaluated assemblies and materials. We have the contractors that are, certified and accredited, and now we have CABS. So we have stabilized a platform for excellent air barrier performance throughout the United States of America. And this truly is the third leg of the three-legged stool. If you want to know what a certified air barrier specialist truly is, the statement makes it an authority on in-depth air barrier knowledge. And what you're going to offer as part of who you are, is proper design knowledge, ensuring correct specification, correct installation, and appropriate testing. I can't tell you how many times I see architects, specifiers, even consultants put in a requirement for testing of an air barrier system that has nothing to do with it. And it causes quite the rhubarb at the job site because it's not a viable test. You will bring that knowledge to all those people saying, this is the most viable test and that one isn't. And you'll also be able to give unbiased industry learning units. We have requests every year for literally thousands of AIA learning units. We will probably pass 10,000 learning units this year. They're given in a variety of spaces, AIA, CSI, IIBEC, and with all that, we bring this to bear, this knowledge to bear. So you'll be able to do, if you pass the exam, present all these unbiased industry learning units. And the CABS benefits are like any other certification, but we're a little bit different. We know that the Spraying Polyurethane Foam Alliance has their certification. The U.S. Green Building Council has theirs. The LEED AP, the LEED B&D, LEED Green Associate, they're great certifications. CSI has a handful also. They have the CDT, the CCPR, the Certified Construction Product Rep, Certified Contract Administrator, or CCA, and a Certified Construction Specifier, CCS. Now with CABS, there's a reason that it is the gold standard. The CABS certification is an ISO 17024 standard. That's the highest standard for certification literally in the world. In that regard, while many of the government agencies may or may not recognize some of the other certifications that are out there, they will always recognize, especially the Department of Energy, they will always recognize the CABS program because it is ISO 17024 standard. That's a very high standard, not one to be played around with or taken lightly. And as far as the other certification programs go on, IIBEC has just reached an agreement with ABAA that the CABS program is going to be part of their prerequisites for moving up the line and taking their higher RRO, all their very high registered consultant certifications. So CABS is now part of that program. What's involved? CABS really will give you, whether you pass the exam or not, and you should pass the exam, a comprehensive air barrier knowledge second to none. There'll be 4 major parts of that comprehensive knowledge, and each one deals pretty much in the specification arena, in the question and answer arena, and on the job site. First, the material, methods, and details. You will be demonstrating your knowledge of air barrier details, building science, air barrier materials, accessory components, and most importantly, assemblies. And If you're with a manufacturer, you will have some corporate responsibility involved in how you handle your business and the claims that you make. The other area where we can be of great assistance to the professional design community is in the project design area. We want to get them to understand air barrier design. We want them to write the proper specifications for their project. Only you, the CABS, can bring that to them. If you're with the manufacturer, what you bring to that design professional at that point is your manufacturer's perspective. So you're very limited in your effect on the architect. By being a CABS, you broaden that base of knowledge and the respect that the design community will have for you. You will know a little bit, need to know a little bit about the building codes, both nationally and basically based on that product or project zone, where they're located, what code they're under, how this affects air barriers. And there may be some regional and industry standards that you would have to deal with, such as the state of Washington with their whole building air tightness testing, or in the city of New York, where some of their range screen designs are undergoing a lot of how do I say this? They're undergoing rework with some new requirements in there. Nothing major. This is not the equation. This is not Einstein's unified field theory. This is air barrier knowledge, and that's what you're going to learn. That's what you're going to share. On-site testing is a critical element. As I mentioned before, sometimes design professionals, they get a little crazy, and they'll put in some tests that they did for something else, and the test may not be applicable to an air barrier. It will be the CAB's responsibility to go back to that design professional and say, hey, not a bad idea, but we really don't look at that test. We look at this test. So you're coming in as a third-party assist to the design community. Also, air barrier project audits, like our QAP program. You will be able to speak very knowledgeably of what the QAP program brings to the building owner, the GC, the manufacturer, the architect, and the air barrier contractor. Commissioning is becoming a huge item. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, we're looking at whole building air tightness testing out in the state of Washington. That is part of a commissioning process that many people are starting to look towards. You'll be able to speak intelligently, knowledgeably, and forthrightly on all the commissioning requirements. And if there is a problem on the job, how do you correct the air leakage paths? How do you discover them? How do you handle them? How do you work on them? Now, with all that, that is not to mean anything other than you're there as an assist. And the last part of the air barrier knowledge, or the CABS knowledge, is the construction site requirements. Is the air barrier installation specified properly? What are the requirements for that air barrier? Does the material going on the job meet those requirements per the specifications? Because all these things are contract documents, and you really can't play around with them way too much. A good friend of mine has a great job. He is the South Korean ambassador to the Caribbean. That is a keen job to have. I doubt there's a lot of stress involved, but he told me one day, and remember, he is an ambassador. He said, America is a great country. America has one problem. And I said, okay, what is the problem? He said, you have 5% of the world's population and you have 90% of the world's lawyers. Truer words were never spoken in our business, in the construction business. So your knowledge of contract documents, as taught through this program, will be second to none. You'll be able to provide a lot of protection for your employer. If you're a manufacturer, even better protection for them by your knowledge and sharing your knowledge. This is not meant to supplant any program that's out there already. The CABS program is an addition to. The CABS program is not a consulting position. Consultants handle their business. We are not to enter into that realm. The CABS program is there to share knowledge and knowledge only with professional design community and others on the project. So do not think that any of this is in conflict. Additionally, the QAP program, the Quality Assurance Program by ABAA, is a completely separate program from CABS. Now, A QAP auditor can also be CABS certified, but the CABS person does not enter into the audit process other than as a knowledgeable standby person. So as with everything else in our business, we're always talking about cost. And this is the cost of what we have right now. We have the program registration. Member pricing is $495, non-member $650. CABS training manual is a paid for manual. So it's $100 for the member, $150 for the non-member. Everything is done electronically. You'll download your CABS training manual after you pay for it, and it will come to you electronically. If perhaps, like myself, you're not the greatest test taker in the world and you have to retest, it's about half the cost. And every 3 years, you will have to renew your certificate. And in that regard, that'll be $250 for a member. What's available to you for exam preparation? Well, I would start by downloading the Certification Handbook, which is at the ABAA website, airbarrier.org. It's a freebie. It'll give you a full explanation of what this exam and certification is. Additionally, when you register for the examination, you will be able to pay for and download the exam study manual. Again, this will come to you electronically. And there are other resources that you need to be involved with your readings. It's exceedingly difficult just to memorize all this testing. The CABS, like many other things in today's world, is designed on a psychometric basis, where it's not there to test your ability to memorize. It's there to evaluate and test your knowledge, your thinking process. It is an objective test, but the questions are outlined in such a way as you need to think through them. Other sources of study would be your online study, your ABAA on-demand webinars, your live webinars. We're doing these all the time throughout the United States. Every Thursday, ABAA has a free live webinar, Thursday at lunch. Contractors have their own webinar series, which are given to assist them because all these things require learning units to recertify. You've got to keep up with your learning. So again, you have your online study resources page, your ABAA on-demand webinar, you have ABAA live webinars given every Thursday, and obviously your newsletter, trade journals, and articles. If you're not receiving the ABAA newsletter, when you go to the website, the airbarrier.org website, to download your handbook, that is where you can sign up for the newsletter, and there's always articles in there. Excuse me. How long is the exam? The exam is established to be a 4-hour time limit. I assure you, you are not going to use all 4 hours. It is ISO 17024 compliant. Again, the highest standard for certification. And to become a CABS, you've got to have 80% plus passing. That's a very good number, easily achieved through the proper study. What is an online proctored exam? Some of our folks and members had a little problem with this. This is very 1984-ish. And what occurs is we have a separate group called Proctor, and the Proctor has visibility of your desk and control over all your tabs. It's going to monitor your desk and you're taking the test through a webcam and a screen share. This is part of the ISO 17024. So essentially, folks, for those of you like myself who went to college on a football scholarship, unfortunately, there is no open book exam. I repeat, no open book exam, and it will be proctored. Everything's going to be executed through ProctorU or Proctor University headquarters. Proctor will be available for customer support. Wi-Fi is required and needed throughout the exam. Everything will be vetted through personal ID scan. So not a lot you can play around with on this, but I do need to give a very big warning. Do not use an Apple or a Mac. You need to have a regular laptop, load it with Microsoft Office. That's the easiest way to do it. We've had people who have had tremendous trouble downloading everything from ProctorU to upload into their Mac, and it's just a painful process, not worth going through. Get a regular old generic laptop, make sure you have the Wi-Fi requirements met, and just hopefully everything's in there in Microsoft. The total timeline for the exam, as I said, is a maximum of 4 hours. I don't think you're going to reach that 4-hour limit. For the, you're going to have 1 minute just to log on, 15 minutes for exam prep. That includes your instructions and your licensing agreement. A maximum 30-minute time to set up with ProctorU, and that would be your webcam, ID, desk review, downloading what you need, and any extensions that you need. Again, this is where you really want to have a laptop with Microsoft on it, not a Mac. I am warning you now, don't use a Mac. You've got this 2 to 4 hour exam time period. Most folks are using like 2 to 2.5 hours max. It's not a hard test, but again, it's measuring your knowledge. It's how much knowledge you've been able to cram into your head during your study periods. And the final wrap up of the test, you'll know immediately whether you passed or failed. You've got to sign out process and procedure, and your results, as soon as you push that send or finish button, your results are known and will be sent to you electronically, and I mean within minutes. A sample question would be, and every question, whether it's 155 or 185 questions, because there are 5 different tests out there, folks, 5 different CABS tests trying to achieve the ISO 17024 standards and measuring your knowledge. So here's a sample question. Expansion joints are required when? And you will have 4 choices. This entire exam is multiple choice, and each multiple choice has 4 answers there for you to choose from. So, you're going to be guided a little bit by what the question is. Your memory will be sparked. And again, it's not specific to your memory, but how you use your memory to comply with the knowledge requirements of the psychometric test. Not hard. And as you can see, this is a very good example of a sample question. So what are your 4 steps to achieving a CABS, or a Certified Air Barrier Specialist certification? 1, go back, download this brief informational program. 2, go get this CABS certification handbook. It's a freebie. When you're done with that, make sure you're comfortable with everything. Start your reading procedures. Go back. We have all of our old newsletters listed on the website. Other things that are listed you can use. Any reading you can do is going to be great. You'll go back into your registration form for your exam testing, and that's when you'll be able to register, pay for the exam, pay for your study manual, and you'll download your study manual. And then when you're ready and prepared, go back and take the exam. A word of caution, none of us like taking exams or tests. Nobody likes that. But I urge you to start your process immediately, spend a few hours every weekend studying, and make sure you take the examination over a weekend also. There's less internet traffic, there's less problems. It's just a good way to go. And to finish, this is what you receive. This is my plaque. Very, very proud of this plaque. And you'll have that. Again, you will have to renew every 3 years to receive your renewal. And that is basically a process of learning units and submitting your learning units. They got to be ABA, air barrier specific learning units to the ABAA. You can complete all your learning unit requirements on those Thursday webinars that ABAA runs, or any other ABAA, AIA learning unit program. So at this point, that's it in a nutshell. I can only urge you to do this. Our industry can use the demonstration of our knowledge, and the CABS program gives us that. My contact information is there. My phone number is there for you to use. Email is there also, cabs@airbarrier.org. And I want to take a moment to thank you all for your time and attention today. You know, it's a Tuesday. It's a busy week for all of us. So I thank you. Ryan, it's back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Roy. So if people have questions, if you want to just type into the question box, and we'll kind of work through those as they come up. So there's a couple things, and some of them, Roy, I think I can jump in on, and some we can maybe work together on this. So the first one kind of deals with the proctored exam. And so it says, I'm scheduled for the proctor exam, but I'm nervous about technical capabilities. What if I have technical problems during the exam? My internet fails. Can someone expand on how that works? Did you want me to take that one, Roy?
Yes, please.
Okay. So on the ABA website, we actually have this whole what to expect on the exam day. And so it gives you kind of like this step-by-step thing. And the company that we used, ProctorU, is kind of this third-party proctoring service, and they have some really helpful instructions, some things that you can do to actually test the technical capabilities. Make sure that your computer is okay and go through all those things. You also have the ABA office to help support you in that. So there is definitely some things that you can do prior to taking that exam, just to make sure that you're not going to have any issues, or at least minimize the chance that you have issues. So stuff happens sometimes, right? Your power goes out or whatever. So in that case, typically it would just need to be rescheduled, and we would kind of work together to do that with the proctor. So don't feel nervous. We're here to help with any and all your questions, and we want to make sure it's a good experience for you. But the biggest recommendation would be to just go through that document, the what to expect on the exam. It's right on the website. And that gives you a really good sense of, okay, this is some of the stuff I can do to prepare. So, okay.
Ryan, I'd like to share a quick story. An acquaintance of mine called me 2 weeks ago, complaining that he went to take a CSI exam online, and he lost the connection 3 or 4 times. And I said, really, Jimmy, did you stop to think to look at the weather? Well, no. Well, Hurricane Nicholas was coming up the coast, and this guy got a direct hit by Hurricane Nicholas while he was taking the exam. And I just caution you, check the weather forecast. Sometimes you do lose power and it's no one's fault, but do check the forecast. So that's my big hint of the day.
Gotcha. So we actually had a follow-up question from the individual just about, kind of testing and so forth. So I would just suggest maybe reaching out to my team for this, and we can maybe take a look at some of those issues if there is an issue, and really help you go through some of that stuff. So just, if you're not 100% sure if there has been an issue, we'll do our best to kind of troubleshoot that for you as best we can. Okay, so here is the next one, Roy. So it says, I almost passed the CABS exam about a year ago, but there was no study guide at the time. I'm a testing and design expert, but need training on products and their certification process to be an air barrier. Does the study guide cover those topics?
Yes, it does. And I can cover them off with you in a separate phone conversation, which is why the phone number's there. It would take about half hour. Be glad to walk you through our internal process of evaluating materials and assemblies and some of the field testing. More than glad to do that.
Okay, and we do get into some of that stuff in the study guide too. So again, a good place to go. Here's a question, just says on the slide, says 6 years for recertification. So can you maybe, Roy, go through the difference between the kind of certification maintenance and then the actual recertification? So kind of the 3 years and the 6 years.
Right. The 6 year is a hard recertification. The 3 years is a renewal, making it through ABAA. You will take the 3 year period of time, gather up your learning units, submit them to ABAA, because all these ISO 17024 standards, they just don't stop. They continue, they evolve, they are live. So every 3 years, and on the second 3 years, which will be your 6 years, you will recertify, and you can recertify through learning units alone. And every 3 years, you'll renew, and that's a 250 charge. So you'll submit everything to ABAA. They'll take a look at everything, come back and tell you what you need to do or that you're done, one way or the other. So there is a difference between a renewal and a recertification. Renewal is just that. Recertification is a very hard look at what you've been doing.
Perfect. Okay, the next one says, can the study material be purchased and accessed prior to registering for the exam or program?
Ryan, why don't you take that one?
So currently, right now, it's available digitally, and is available for purchase when you actually register for the program. So we don't have it available prior to that. I think maybe that's something that we can have as a takeaway going, is that maybe a possibility that we can provide that. So Brian, just leave that one with me. So currently, right now, you would have to register, then you get access to the study guide. But let's see if there's maybe something that we can do for you.
And that's, Ryan, you're right. That's been a subject of discussion within our own committee.
Mm-hmm.
Do we make it available or not? And the thinking is like, okay, why would you just want the study manual and not want to take a test? So it'll be available when you register.
Gotcha. Okay. Next one says, what are the qualifications to sit for the exam?
Okay, the ability to fog a mirror is a real good place to start. The qualifications are you're in the business one way, shape, or form. You've done your studying. We have recommendations as to how long you should have been in the business. They're strictly recommendations. They are not dictates. So really, your preparation is your requirement for the exam. If you do not prepare properly, you will fail. Just telling you that right up front. And the study manual has been a great benefit. We did a lot of beta testing early on. And just to make you all feel a little more comfortable, the beta testing was done by hand-chosen people who were intimate to the business. They did not have the study manual. I repeat, they did not have the study manual, and they all scored between 74 and 79 without the study manual. So you can see this is a passable test with study.
Gotcha. So the next says, what is the legal liability of a certified person or to the company they work for?
That's a great question. I would go back to your corporate legal staff. And if it's like every other legal staff that I deal with, you have 4 lawyers, you'll get 5 opinions because one always likes to argue both sides. There really is no liability. If you were charging for your services here in the States, when you charge for your services, you're now liable. When you're a third party certified person that receives no compensation for their opinion, you are not liable. And that's been determined in the court of laws for years and years and years. If you walk in and act like a consultant, you're encroaching that. But again, the consultants have their business. Our QAP people have theirs. CABS has their knowledge base. All you're sharing is knowledge, and you're not charging for it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, right? Because we're basically creating this credential going, you've proven that you have some knowledge.
And that's all it is.
Yeah. Okay. So another one, this says, what is the failure rate?
Okay, I've got to break that out in two ways. The failure rate early on, because we did all the beta testing, enters into our data. But we did the beta testing without the study manual, and everyone that took this exam got between 74 and 79. The failure rate right now, I'd say, is running about 35%, which is just about standard for any certification program at this level. And that 35%, I can tell you they didn't study the right things, or they didn't study hard enough. You can take some of the other exams that are out there, like the CSI exam, a little bit of effort, a little bit of study. Again, this is an ISO standard certification. It's a little bit above the others. So study well, study frequently, study often.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? Like there's lots of resources out there, right? We have our weekly webinars, we have our conference, there's the local building enclosure councils. Like there's so many good places to go and study and help prepare, and especially our free webinars on Thursdays, right? The majority of those would help you prepare for the exam.
And Ryan, thank you for that information, but we also have the Learning Unit Cafe.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So people don't know what the Learning Unit Cafe, it's kind of our more popular kind of AIA type presentations, all an hour and a piece. So again, this ends up being for chapters, for architectural firms, for those that are looking for some more education. So we can provide a little bit more information on that, and there's lots of information on our website too. So good point there, Roy. Something that maybe we can add to our list of things to help people study.
Yep.
Okay, the next one says, how does this cover relate to NIBS Guideline 3-212 for exterior enclosures to meet LEED version 4 building enclosure commissioning?
Okay, the straight answer is I have no idea. Okay, the real world answer is that parts and pieces of this will be in there. It's not a NIBS program, it's strictly an Air Barrier Association of America program. And I know that the NIBS program goes into different parts and pieces of the building. We don't go there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really the feedback. Not trying to be flippant, but we designed this specifically to demonstrate air barrier knowledge. We designed this specifically, again, as the verbiage in the slide says, basic design approaches, basic details. So the NIBS program goes past us.
Yeah, for sure. And the candidate handbook that Roy referenced kind of gets into all those details. So they'll have what we call exam weighting. So the exam weighting is going to tell you, say, out of 100 questions, 10 are going to be on building science and 15 on air barrier materials and 10 on this. So there is a little component when it gets into building enclosure commissioning, but it's a fairly small part and sort of very basic too. So the candidate handbook will kind of help you steer you in the way of kind of the more important parts of the exam and where to study, and just provides you some of that guidance going, okay, this is really where I need to kind of dial in my education and do some studying on. The next question says, is there a time limit between registering for the exam and the time you actually take it?
Wow, great question. We've had some people sign up for the exam 1 year ago, last October 2020, and have not yet taken the exam. There's not many of them, but we are sort of going to provide guidance to them that after a year they should be ready to take the exam, and hopefully by December 31st. But right now there is no limits. Now, none of us like to be tested. None of us like exams. At least I didn't. And I think I speak for a lot of folks. I would say 3 months as this program evolves from when you register to when you take the exam. I'm probably going to cap it at 3 months. And 3 months of study gives you 12 weekends. You know, you're looking at almost 100 days, call it 90 days. You should be able to have this under your belt in that time period. So right now, no. In the future, yes, it's been a subject of great debate. And we, as a people, we procrastinate, which is why some of the folks are out 1 year on their testing capabilities. So hopefully, I'm going to tell you 3 months if you sign up after December 31st this year.
Okay, perfect. And I guess, one of the biggest things that is maybe a difference between this credential and others, others it's like you need to take it on this week. And with the fact that we're doing a kind of online proctoring, you could really do it at your own pace, right? So you could do it in the evening, you can do it on the weekend. You don't have to go, okay, I'm signing up and I have to take it today. So that's provided a little bit more flexibility for people. But I think you're right, Roy. There's some credentials I've looked for, and I just keep putting it off. Right? It's like every year I was like, I'm supposed to do this, and I don't. So you're right. Sometimes it's good to commit and just work towards it. Okay,
Yeah.
so the next question here just says, is the renewal the 3 years and recertification the 6 years the same cost? Or is the recertification charge the full charge? And I believe that's all articulated in the candidate handbook.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, pretty much so. That's how I can answer that. This is an evolving program. It's 1 year old. We do get a tremendous amount of feedback as to how to improve the system. We get other feedback that's obscene, but we get a lot of feedback that's good. And part of the process of being an ISO 17024 standard is all this is reviewed. It's reviewed depending on the amount of comment in a time period, but definitely the comments we receive, the suggestions we receive, and comments on the questions that are asked, because we do evaluate the questions top to bottom, and that's the royal we, that's really building professionals that does all that review. But with that, this is done constantly, so things can change. And as I said, we have the 3 year renewal, 6 year recertification. Right now, no one's made it 3 years. So our costs are our costs and are listed in the handbook.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Sounds good, Roy. And again, the candidate handbook kind of gives you all the details of timing, requirements, renewal, recertification, sample test questions, weighting. So it becomes kind of like the place to go to answer a lot of those types of questions. So Roy, and then we just had another question just with some comments about, the registration and taking the exam and stuff like that. So I think there's some things that we can review here, Roy, as a team, and see if there's some things that maybe we can adjust or provide some clarification in regards to, when you register and taking the exam and some of that type of stuff.
It's a very passable examination with study. I again, reference the group we had do the beta testing, all scored between 74 and 79 with 80% being passing, and they did that without the study manual. So it's just a matter of sitting down and taking care of business. And I'm always available. For the contractors online, I hope you realize that we do have the Thursday Learning Unit programs for everyone. But on specific Fridays, we have programs devoted strictly to the contractors, and only contractors can attend those. So there's 2 ways to pick up your LUs if you're a contractor.
Well, everyone, thanks for attending today. Hopefully, this answered some of the questions you had on the program. Again, thank you, Roy, for doing this presentation and kind of walking people through the program. Again, it's new; it's only about a year old, and we're excited for this new credential to be out in the market. So, without further ado, have a great day, and thanks for attending today.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Roy.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, bye.